The second staging of the Buses Festival took place once again at the Heritage Motor Centre at Gaydon in Warwickshire. Among the early arrivals are several particularly tuneful AECs. This duple-bodied AEC Reliance coach pulls into the museum site. The route indicator suggests this Bristol coach is actually bound for Bristol. Dating from 1969, this short Daimler Fleetline double-decker bears the Walsall Corporation livery with the fleet number 116. It pulls up to be checked in. Its Northern Counties body was built to the specification of the General Manager, R. Edgley Cox. This Guy is one of around 900 Birmingham standard double-deckers introduced into service between 1950 and 1954 as the corporation updated its fleet. This Leyland Panther Cub is one of only 94 built. 20 of them were supplied to Manchester Corporation, in whose colour scheme it is preserved. The blue and silver livery of Travel West Midlands is on this Metrocamel Weyman Metrobus. The more modern of the pair of single-deckers here is a Leyland National, bearing Stroud Valley colours. Leyland Nationals were the product of a joint venture between Leyland and the National Bus Company. This rather narrow-looking Albion Nimbus features a 35-seater body built by Reddings of Portsmouth in order to negotiate the roads on the island of Guernsey in the 1960s. An example now of one of the most iconic British double-deckers of all time, the London Transport Routemaster. This Eastern Coachworks bodied Bristol RE was built for Red and White, which operated in parts of southeast Wales and neighbouring areas of England. The wrap-round windscreen and rounded rear of the vehicle was devised by ACW especially for this model of Bristol. New in 1952 to Derby Corporation, this brush-bodied Crossley was one of the rarest vehicles attending the 2015 Buses Festival. Bearing South Notts livery, this single-decker is a Leyland Atlantean, a name normally associated with double-deck buses, and it was indeed a double-decker when it entered traffic new in 1974 with Nottingham City Transport. The East Lancs 45-seat body was fitted in 1994 when the vehicle was also lengthened. A Leicester City Transport livery is carried by this Leyland Titan PD3A, making its way down towards the display area. Vehicles are displayed in the car parking area immediately adjacent to the main museum building. This 1970 Bristol RELL, which features a two-door Eastern Coachworks body, is manoeuvred into position in the area that will soon become occupied with the buses assigned to giving visitors rides, both on-site and out on the road. This Harrington-bodied AEC Reliance coach makes its way down the centre roadway, while the lines of vehicles in the display area build up steadily. New to the Midland General Company, this 1970 Trent Motor Traction Bristol RELL stands ready for action. A Greater Manchester liveried fleet line pulls into line. Manchester Corporation was very forward-thinking when it commissioned its own vehicle design, the Mancunian, of which this is an example, in 1968. Southdown livery is carried here, and 2015 marked a century since the formation of Southdown Motor Services. The Birmingham Standard Guy Arab, sporting its Metro Camel body, stands proudly in line. With the gates now open to the public, it's time for selected vehicles to start providing rides, and this Devon General badged National Bus Company liveried Bristol LH pulls out of the line to commence its duties. The Devon General concern became merged into the Western National subsidiary of the National Bus Company, whose royal blue colour scheme is carried by this Bristol MW coach. Taking a closer look at a few of the vehicles attending the 2015 Buses Festival, we start with this Devon General AEC Reliance. Well, we're on board this Devon General AEC Reliance, and Dennis, one of the co-owners, is here. What can you tell us about it?
Well, Alan, it's a unique vehicle now, one of only 5 that Devon General bought back in 1964 to run the Sidmouth route, the 9 route out to Sidmouth. AC 590 engine, so nice and powerful for the Devon Hills. And one was actually converted to a lower axle ratio to run higher speeds on the Plymouth Express run. And a couple of drivers were caught speeding, so that came out very quickly.
So they were doing something beyond the speed limit?
Beyond 50 miles per hour, which is what this will run at. So probably for the A38 at that time, too quick, yes.
And what make of bodywork has it got?
This is a Marshall body, BT standard body. We've seen these on many vehicles around, but this one was built by Marshalls.
And did Devon General go on to buy more vehicles like this?
Yes, in different lengths. Yeah, this is a 36-footer, and I think it was giving the drivers quite a challenge down in the lanes of Devon. It was the first 36-foot vehicle bought by Devon General, and in my experience driving this, it's actually long compared to 524, our double-decker, which we've got, which is obviously the shorter vehicle. But yes, they went on to buy more of this style, but in different lengths as well.
And were these used to replace double-deckers or single-deckers?
I think on this they were to replace some double-deckers, just to add to the mix, really, for these short routes along the coast.
And the attraction to you of an AEC?
Well, I was brought into this by my colleague Royston, really. I've been a bus spotter, a train spotter all my life, and I think AECs make the right noises. Royston, who co-owns this vehicle with me, has been an AEC fanatic for years and years, and I joined him with 524 double-decker and then joined him with the ownership of this, and they just make the right noises for us. They drive very well, it's quite economical, and it stays together, touch wood.
Excellent. And the attraction of Devon General as an operator?
I think it's the holiday thing. You know, a lot of people went down to Devon on holiday. Red buses on holiday you tend to remember. A lot of people will remember other areas around the country where they holidayed, but I remember these things down in Devon. We used to go down to Devon quite a lot. I lived in South Wales and we used to go over there quite a bit. But it's just a great livery. It looks lovely. And yeah, and there's lots of them around on the road still. Quite a good collection of preserved Devon General buses in the country.
So you were able to take it to Devon General events?
Yes, we have done. Yeah, these two buses that we have, both Devon General, are located in the Midlands, up in Nottingham. It's a long way down to Devon, particularly in the Decker at 36 miles per hour. But we try and go every few years and join one of the big events down in Devon. Yes.
And you were here last year with this vehicle.
Yeah, and I have to say, there are lots of events in this country, and to add another event into the calendar was a bit of a challenge last year. You've done very well. I think it was well attended last year, and certainly today looks brilliant. I mean, you've got a bigger attendance here this year, and I hope this goes from strength to strength. It's a really nice event.
I'm here with Malcolm Keeley from the Transport Museum at Withall on a splendid-looking Midland Red double-decker. Malcolm, what's the story? What is this bus?
Well, famously, Midland Red built their own vehicles, but in the early 50s they found themselves in need of supplementing their own production, so they bought 100 Leylands. And although they got Leyland's own body, they were modified to meet the specification that Midland Red fancied.
And what particular features were there of this specification that made these buses unique or the first of their type?
Well, here at the back end here we have a set of platform doors. Midland Red had just introduced that on their own vehicles, and at the front end we have a new look bonnet assembly.
And this, if I remember correctly, this was the bonnet assembly that Leyland then adopted as its own standard.
Yes, it was built to Midland Red's sort of design, and then the first one was exhibited at the 1952 Commercial Motor Show, and so many operators liked the look of it that they asked Leyland if they could have their Leylands with the same front end.
And so this was presumably one of many examples of Midland Red leading the way with the way that British buses were designed.
Yes, it might be thought that because Midland Red designed and built their own that they were crude and behind the times, but that's actually quite the opposite. They were frequently leading the manufacturers.
And the platform doors, the benefit of that, presumably, was this for passenger comfort, passenger safety, or a bit of both?
Yes, basically passenger comfort. The general manager at the time, Mr. D.M. Sinclair, was extremely keen on making Midland Red buses the best in the country. Whether he achieved that is another matter, but nonetheless, as part of the improvements, doors and heaters were something he wanted. Midland Red had a lot of interurban routes, and because it'd be pretty drafty in the old double-deckers, open platforms, bouncing along the country roads. So having a set of platform doors and heaters made things a lot more comfortable for the passengers.
So when these buses were new, what sort of routes were they that they were operating on, presumably interurban, and which towns were they connecting?
Right. Well, because they entered service just after the Midland Red's D5B models, and D5Bs were put on certain routes, and then the Leylands were put into certain garages. So they were very, very numerous. Leamington Garage, which had a lot of open road work, Birmingham Digbeth, likewise, Bearwood Garage, Kidderminster, Ludlow, which, although it was the smallest and apparently quietest garage in the fleet, actually their vehicles had more miles, average miles per day than any other ones in the fleet, because there was no peak extras.
And this particular bus looks as though it has been restored to an extremely high standard. I mean, what sort of work was involved? Over how many years was this restoration work done?
Yeah, that's always an interesting question, because people assume that you start work as soon as you get it, and it takes that long. But I have to confess that this was actually stored for many years, and then we really got going in the mid-90s, and then it took us about 10 or a dozen years to get it in the condition you see now. The only reason it survives was that it was purchased from Midland Red by Foster Brothers, Foster Menswear, who moved their factory from the centre of Birmingham to an area in Solihull called Shirley, and they needed a staff bus to take people along, so they nipped down to the Midland Red garage. This happened to be the very last one that was running, So they bought it for staff transport, and that's how it survived. And it was bought into preservation from Foster Brothers.
So was it in working order at the time that it was acquired?
Mechanically, it was okay. Bearing in mind where Foster's old factory was and then where the new factory was, how on earth it got into the deplorable condition it did, I don't know. But the body was in very poor state, and a lot of work was first done by the Midlands Omnibus Preservation Society, who purchased it for preservation in the first place, and then we did the rest.
And the inside of this bus has a lot of rather attractive period advertisements in it as well, and I know that you have things like that on display at Withall. It's not just about buses, but everything that went with a bus operation. So how do you come by some of this advertising material?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this vehicle it is particularly exceptional. These are actually the adverts that were on it when it was in service with Midland Red, and we very carefully protected them throughout the restoration process. And bearing in mind the degree of dismantling that was undertaken, particularly when rewiring, we had to be very careful how we dealt with that. And nearly all these adverts, only about one of them I think is a replacement. The rest are actually original.
Excellent. And Withall, how often does it open? And what sort of? I know you have special events during the year. You are also presumably open on a more regular basis as well.
Yes, we're open during British summertime on Saturdays and Sundays, and then we're also open on certain Wednesdays. And then we also have major event days, about 10 or 12 days a year, when exhibits offer rides to our visitors.
And how can people get to you? How do they find you? What sort of transport can get them there?
Right. Well, we're very conveniently located on the motorway system, so we're just off the M42 Junction 3. If you just head from Birmingham, you'll find us by the old Withall Church. But probably the best way to reach us is by our own bus services. We run from central Birmingham on those major days I referred to. Otherwise, there are occasional buses and an hourly train service to Withall.
Well, we're now on board Birmingham City Transport single-deck Daimler Fleet Line, and I'm with Peter Turland from the Yardley Wood Bus Club. Peter, how long have you had this bus?
2001. We purchased it, and it took us almost 10 years to get it on the road.
So what condition was it in when you first got it?
No windows, no windscreens fitted, and the underneath was rotten. So we had to have welding done, and we had to get the windows made and purchase the special windscreens, because the windscreens are specially produced for the Marshall Body single deck fleet line, which is only not many around at all.
And what had it been used for latterly before you acquired it?
It was used by a company called Trailways, which I don't know much about, but they just parked it up, and it was parked up in a barn for years since then, and we just happened to come across it and bought it. I bought it off them. And
these were operated on particularly on one particular route in Birmingham?
Yes, the 27 route mainly, which is the Cadbury's 27 route, which run under the bridge at Bourneville, which is limited to height, which is 9 foot. I think it's 9 foot, I think, the height of the bridge. So no double-deckers ever uses the 27 route.
And is this a long route or a short route in the city?
It's varied. At one time it used to be short from Kingsheath to Westheath. Then it was extended as a South Birmingham Circle bus, which is the 27A and the 27C, the South Circle, which was an hour and 15 minutes in both directions. Then it was extended to run with the 35 route, which then made it I think it was 3¼ hours round journey. But it was so fraught with late running that they split it up again and done it to Kingsheath to Hawksley now.
This vehicle has 37 seats, is that correct?
That's it, 37 seats and 8 standing.
And a space behind the driver for luggage, I see.
Luggage rack, and people get on sometimes and think the stairs are there, but of course there's no stairs being a single decker.
Something to take them by surprise.
Yes.
But it's a single decker with a double deck chassis.
That's right, yes, and built as a single decker as well.
And how long is it? About a bit over 30 feet, I think.
Yes, that's it, about 33 feet, I think it is, yes, 33 feet. 8 foot 2 inches wide, and no power steering, just the original steering as it was fitted. Everything's original.
So do you need strong arms to work it?
Not really, no. It's not bad at all. Not bad at all. Not bad.
And very economical,
Yes.
or for a bus.
Yes, for fuel it's 15.2 to the gallon, which is almost twice as what you get with a double decker bus these days.
Yes. It sounds a lot better than you get even with a hybrid double decker today. And the bodywork on this is by Marshall.
Marshall bodied bus, yes, Marshall bodied. Special windscreens, the curved windscreens, so it's very hard to find replacements for them.
Which must have presumably been a bit of a headache even when they were new, if these were unique vehicles.
Yes, because we managed to get a spare one off Rob Hanford. He managed to have one in stores, and we managed to get one off Rob Hanford.
Right, and the engine in it, Gardner?
Gardner engine. I don't know what the CC is because I'm not all that up on engines, but it's a Gardner engine, the original engine from the double-decker bus, because it's not the original engine that was put in when the bus was built, but it's a replacement that was put in 1982, I think it is, going to the cards. We've got all the works cards, the history cards with us, you see, so... And that was off a double-decker bus 3411, I think it was.
Right, and it's a 4 or 5 speed, is it 4-speed gearbox?
4-speed gearbox. We never use first gear because it's a double-deck built, so its second gear is plenty fast enough to pull away even with a full load on. And the top speed is 40 mile an hour.
Which is obviously fine for urban work. Does it make things a little bit slow when you're on long drives, or do you just get used to it?
You just get used to it because you're not involved with the traffic. You're just going with the flow and everything overtaking you, so you haven't got to keep slowing down or pulling out, so we're just nice and steady. 40 mile an hour, which isn't too bad.
And you're here today not just with the bus, although the bus is helping to attract people to your stand, but you also have things for sale. And
yes, we need to sell things to keep the bus on the road, and also our other bus which we are trying to restore, so all the money helps towards the restoration and the cost of operating the preserve bus.
the Southdown liveried Bristol VRT moves into position to pick up travellers at the loading point. Now fully loaded, it's off for a trip around the Heritage Motor Centre site. The Western National Bristol follows, having also taken passengers on board. Another pair of vehicles is seen at the loading point as the Walsall Fleet Line begins its circuit of the site. This national Welsh Leyland National commences its trip. Approaching the completion of its circuitous tour, the Leyland National returns with its satisfied passengers. The Walsall Daimler also makes its return. This open-topped Bristol low-decker again gave rides, having been a popular vehicle at the initial 2014 event. Bearing the Greater Glasgow Passenger Transport Executive livery, this is a 1973 Leyland Atlantean, and it features a two-door Alexander body. Having unloaded its passengers, the Glasgow Leyland moves back to the display ranks. The Birmingham Guy Arab is captured in action. Unlike the first staging of the Buses Festival a year earlier, the weather forecast was not encouraging, and the arrival of the heavy rain left only a few hardy souls to remain outdoors, as most rushed to the cover of the main museum building.
Well, we've had a day of mixed weather. It's started off beautiful sunshine this morning, and then, as forecast, rain came along around about lunchtime and did curtail activities for a while. People were scurrying indoors to some of the indoor sheltered events. But as the afternoon has come towards its end, the skies are starting to clear again. It's become dry, and we can snatch a few shots of some of the vehicles as they leave, including the one directly behind us at the moment, the Seddon Pennine Alexander M type. And I'm here along with its owner, or one of its owners, part owner, Donald Booth. And Donald, how long have you had this bus? Or coach, I should say.
We've had it since 1995. We rescued it for preservation in 1995 and completed its restoration around about 2001, and have been visiting various rallies around the country ever since.
And what condition was it in when you got it at first?
It was complete but tatty. I think it would be a fair description. We had to do quite a lot of panel work and work on the interior and such like.
So an Alexander M type, they were built almost exclusively for the Scottish Bus Group. I mean, what are its features?
Well, as you can see, it's very much borrows from the American Greyhound coach influence, and it was a kind of joint collaboration between the Scottish Bus Group and Alexander's Coach Builders, and I believe they travelled to America to see what they did there and create something special, which was for the Scottish Bus Group's services from Scotland to London.
And designed primarily for overnight travel.
Yes, designed for overnight travel. It's got double glazing, small windows, comfortable reclining seats, carpeted, and when they were new they had powerful oil-fired heating to keep everybody warm at night.
So this doesn't have the powerful oil-fired heating?
No, that particular feature's been removed. Well, it was removed before we got it, and we feel it's safer not to return it.
Yeah. And I mean, they were built on a variety of chassis. That Seddon was exclusively for Eastern Scottish.
That's correct, yes. The vast majority of them were built on Bristol REMH chassis, and then later, when that chassis ceased to be available, firstly they appeared on Leyland Leopards, then on Volvo B58, and lastly, as we can see here, the 12-metre version of the Seddon Pennine.
So Gardner engine, manual gearbox?
Manual gearbox, yes. Yeah, it's got a Gardner 180, a 6H LXB, and a 6-speed ZF gearbox. Quite a good economical chassis, nice and quiet, a smooth running quiet chassis, perhaps not as well engineered as a Leyland Leopard, but it has its virtues of its own.
And what sort of speed will it do?
It's comfortable in the low 60s. It will do a little faster, but it wouldn't be expedient to drive it that fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
And fuel consumption?
It's not too bad. I mean, if you're heavy on the right foot, it'll do about 10. But yesterday we worked out the MPG on our run south here, and it did just over 12 to the gallon.
Which is pretty good,
Quite
especially
good by modern standards.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, and it's 42 seats in
Two reclining seats, yes.
plus a toilet, which.
As well.
Right, and you're now about to set off on a fairly lengthy journey
Yes,
tonight.
we're returning to Glasgow tonight, and the bus actually lives at the Scottish Vintage Bus Museum at Rathamond in Fife. but it will be parked in Glasgow for probably a week or so before returning it there.
And with fair traffic and vehicle conditions, when do you hope to be back tonight?
Hopefully around 11 or 11:30 tonight. We need to do that because most of us are at work tomorrow.
The challenges involved in manoeuvring the 12-metre coach in restricted areas are evident here as the driver requires assistance in the removal of the traffic cones and a few directional signals to avoid contact with immovable objects. Finally clear of all obstacles, the Seddon makes its way towards the exit. The Seddon has one of the longest journeys home and was among the first to leave the festival, and it got home by midnight. The Guernsey Railways Albion heads for the exit. Something a little more modern now as this Plaxton-bodied Volvo B10M heads homeward. A red London Transport RF. While some vehicles head home, rides are still being given here. The Western National Bristol begins its homeward journey. A couple of Leicester Corporation AECs still stand in line while the Leicester Leyland PD3A heads for the exit. The green livery of London Country Bus Services is carried by the Eastern Coachworks bodied Bristol LHS single-decker intended for rural routes. Harrington coach body on this Leyland Leopard in the livery of the Rochdale operator Ellen Smith. The Leyland 510 engine was known by many in the trade as the Headless Wonder due to its fixed cylinder head configuration. It powers this Leyland National. Among the more modern coaches that attended were the double-deck King's Setra and the Toyota Optimo Mini Coach, while this Reading bus's Scania is gas-powered and has recently set the speed record as the fastest recorded biomethane-fuelled bus. Walsall Fleetline 116 heads for the exit gates. One of the newest buses in attendance was this Wright Street Deck, Mercedes-Benz powered double-decker, only recently delivered to the Oxford Bus Company. Something a little smaller here as the Devon General Bristol LH departs. This preserved Leyland Leopard sports a duple dominant bus body and carries the colours of the Guildford-based Safeguard Coaches, which operates 2 bus routes in the Surrey town. The West Bromwich Corporation livery is worn by this 1952 Daimler that features rear platform Metrocamel bodywork. Another Bristol here, this example in Western National livery. The Hawkeys coach from Cornwall carries a body produced by Thomas Harrington of Hove in Sussex. Dating from 1964, it has an AEC Reliance 470 chassis. The City of Manchester Leyland Panther Cub is seen again, but here it has finished providing rides as it heads home. Another of the modern vehicles at Gaydon is this Wright Streetlight. Diamond Bus operates in the West Midlands and the northwest of England, so can be considered a company that is local to the motor centre. The London Routemaster that had earlier been seen arriving now heads for the exit. Pair of Bristol REs now. This example sports the green Hanson Dorset livery. The second example carries the National Bus Company poppy red Trent livery. The Greater Glasgow livery on the Atlantean stands out in the afternoon sunshine. The open-top Bristol Low-Decker was seen giving rides earlier at this location, but now it's time for it to head home to Gloucester. The Derby Corporation Crossley sets off now. Lincolnshire Road Car green livery on this Low-Decker, one of several Bristols that attended the 2015 Buses Festival. And finally, this very patriotic-looking London Routemaster sets off homeward bound.